Welcome, one and all. I'm Artie Decker. This is PSN. We're back. It's week 9. We're going to get into the playoff scenarios every way possible that anything could be. We're going to break down, all the games. As I said, we'll go through piece by piece and try to put the playoff picture together for you. Maybe just kind of project it. But let's just jump into last week to start out here. Just some notable scorers. Um, Addison rolling over Tharptown, no shock there. Um, Nothing really jumps out at you. As we talked about last week, the Titans, that's 2 wins in a row for them. That's encouragement, if anything else, for Bart Sessions and his Titans. Um, Hoover wins easily over Vestavia. Uh, Thompson. A lot of people thought that game would be really close, but Thompson just was not having it, especially defensively. I think that's the big thing that kind of shocked everybody, is the fact that they were able to hold them to 7 points. So that's a huge, huge win for the Warriors. It's now also, I think that ties that region up with everybody being tied with a four-way tie going in the final week. It's just crazy looking into this upcoming week. Hartsville takes care of Coleman. No big shock there. We had the big region title game. We actually got this one wrong. It was 28-14. The Wildcats were able to, put together a nice little run and come back in the second half. And Bain threw for, I think, close to 300 yards, 4 touchdown passes. Big, big second half for him. McPherson makes the field goal late to, pretty much put it on ice. And they win a wild one, 52-42. So just congratulations to Coach Elmore and the Wildcats. I mean, I for one, I had my doubts about them after those first 2 weeks. But, they got healthy, maybe settled in a little bit in his system, and were able to win a region title. Gardendale takes out Shays Valley. That actually clinches the 4th spot for Gardendale, so that will set up a Gardendale going to Fort Payne in the first round of the playoffs. Jackson Olin survives that Helena game. Buckhorn, I said, they're going to get a win this week, and they did, 29-7. Finally getting the win and another impressive defensive showing for them, only giving up 7 points. Region title game there. Hueytown takes out McAdore. A big upset. Roydell Williams, pretty good little game. Enough, anyway, to get the win and win a region title. Kind of out of nowhere. Chelsea finally gets a win this season. That's big for Coach Goodwin as far as trying to build that program down there. And I mean, Minor's not a great team, but not anything to scoff at. So it's a win. Most shows very impressive over Athens. Athens had a very good year, but they kind of put a whooping on them in that one. Sharpeville takes out Oxford, and that locks up the number 2 spot for them. Pretty impressive win as well. Um, Pennsylvania Valley just taking care of business. Opelika. Nobody really saw that one coming. They have definitely put a monkey wrench in that region because, Stanhope Elmore with the big upset win over Wetumpka, all of a sudden they were in the driver's seat, but now Opelika just smashed 59-21. So now we got a three-way tie going into this final week, and it is craziness, and it's likely going to come down to the wins outside of region tie break. And speaking of Wetumpka, won a wild one, 61-40 over Selma. Selma's a dangerous team. They haven't really gotten that big upset win, but they have given some people some fits pretty much all season. Arab steps up, gets that first win. We talked about it last week. They had a really good shot. I felt like to finally get Coach Glasscock his first win as head coach and head coach in general at anywhere. And they actually pull it off. knock off Madison County as they continue to struggle this season also. So congratulations to the Raven Nats on that one. Gunnersville wins a close one over Ardmore. That could have been a devastating loss for them because they actually hold the tie break, and the way it looks, they will more than likely sneak in the playoffs. But if they would have lost this one, it would have been devastating. Limestone and Brewer, the battle for number 2 in that region. It was a good game. I knew it would be. But East Limestone able to come out with a W in that one. Region title game, Ramsey and Briarwood. We actually picked Briarwood. Ramsey Rams wholly upset, if you will, 21-7. Uh, you know, I don't think a lot of people would have picked that one at the start of the year. Central Clay smashes Sylacauga. That's a huge win as far as their region standings also, and Sylacauga just continues to slide. At one point, I believe Sylacauga was actually ranked number 9 in the polls, but they have just plummeted over the last 4 or 5 weeks. It'll all just take care of business over in Death Valley in that one. Door takes out Hayden. That pretty much locks up the playoff spot at least. Uh, it it's hard to say right now if it'll be 3 or 4. I would lean more towards 4, but we shall see after this week. But that will pretty much lock them up a guaranteed playoff spot by knocking off Hayden in that one. Madison Academy. This game's a little bit closer than I think a lot of people expected. Started out strong and just kind of, I don't know, Scottsboro fought back in that mid part of the game and made it interesting. But and actually had a shot, had the ball inside the 20 with 2 plays to potentially score and maybe go for 2 and tie it up, but were unable to get the ball in the end zone. So, golden opportunity could have really helped their playoff hopes tremendously if they could have pulled it off. Mumford sneaks out of there with a win. That keeps their playoff hopes alive. This is another de facto region title game. Jasper and Russellville. We actually picked Russellville. Jasper just smashes them. Jasper has had a fantastic year. It's just continued. A lot of people thought the run would come to an end, but they proved that they are for real and just dominated Russellville in that one. Sardis takes out Crossville. No big shock there. This was a little bit of an upset. We already kind of had it planned out for this week. Boaz, Etowah, region title on the line. Southside says, hold up, wait a minute, and knocks off the Pirates 45-28. They have found something over the last, I would say, 4 weeks. I don't know how to describe it, but they found something as far as offense goes, and after struggling so madly in the first 3 to 4 games. So congrats to them. Um, DAR just continuing to roll. Looking on that Good Hope Curry game that really helped Good Hope's playoff hopes. Headland finally loses to Dale County. That's a tough one on that one. As we talked about, would Hopes Bluff and would Jacksonville look ahead? Hopes Bluff got caught peeking a little bit, and their close rival there, Cherokee County, just almost snuck out of there with a win, but they do survive. Big win for Hanley. That keeps their hopes of potentially getting that number 2 spot in their region alive. Lincoln, big win over Childersburg, pretty much locks up that region for them. Um, Looking on Anniston, Aniana, this game was for number 3 in that region, and a lot of people picked Aniana. I personally, I thought, Anniston had a pretty good shot of doing it, and they do it. 27-13. So, you know, pretty much puts them in position to take 3, and Aniana takes 4 in that one. Escambia County playing some pretty good ball. But they run into a buzzsaw. UMF Wright just smashes them 35-0. Another buzzsaw. North Jackson just continues to roll and score a ton of points. Jacksonville. This game was actually, I think, 14-8 at halftime, but they kind of took over in the second half and pulled away to get the win. Also, probably looking a little ahead of, to this week, I would imagine. Piedmont rolls in that one. No big shock there. Um, that Cobra Heights over Clements is actually pretty significant because it pretty much locks up a spot for Cobra Heights and really pretty much kills any hope for Clements. Fultondale rolls in that one. No big shock there. Pennington takes care of business. Midfield, same way. Mobile Christian rolls. Plainview and New Hope. This game could have been just astronomically bad for the Bears if they would have lost this one. They have to my understanding, score on one of the last drives of the game and sneak out of there with a 12-7 win. I'm guessing they didn't play very well, or maybe New Hope played lights out. I really couldn't tell you, but nevertheless, they absolutely needed this win, and they managed to just sneak out of there with the W. Pleasant Valley knocking off Welborn. That's a big win for Pleasant Valley. You might say, well, it's not playoff bound type win, but it's just for the program. They have made so many improvements this season, and just you could argue one of their best seasons in probably 5 to 10 years. So just congrats to them for getting a big win over Wilburn. Probably the shocker of the night. Randolph County knocks off Sachs. Sachs was dominating people, and pretty much took care of Piedmont. So most people just thought, it's kind of a slam dunk that they'll take out Randolph. But Randolph had other plans. They likely played the best game they've played all season, and really showed out and took out number one in that one. And now all of a sudden that region is crazy. I mean, we had already kind of crowned Sachs number one and just kind of moved on, but now all of a sudden you get that three-way tie between Piedmont, Randolph, and Sachs. And the way it shapes out, if things hold like they're supposed to hold, our projections, we got Piedmont going at number one, we got Sachs at number two, and Randolph County at number three, but we shall see how that all unfolds. Geraldine clinches their region title with a big win over Susan Moore. Sylvania takes out Pisgah. That's a huge, huge win for Putnam and Company because that keeps their playoff hopes alive, uh, really alive and well with getting that win. And all of a sudden, Pisgah looking like a lock, not looking so much like a lock anymore. It's going to get interesting over the next, especially after this week, even going into week 10 to see how that all pans out. Weaver takes care of Glencoe in that one. The buzzsaw Westminster just rolls over Lauderdale County. I believe it's the first time in school history they've beaten them. So just congrats to them as they just continue to roll. Luverne bounces back with a nice blowout win. Cottage Hill just continues to roll. Tarrant gets a scare from Cold Springs. That could have put a monkey wrench in things if Cold Springs could have pulled that upset, but just comes up a little bit short. Collinsville just continues to roll. Um, we talked about this game last week. North Sand had an opportunity, we thought, to maybe, if they played lights out, to beat Fife. But as the season has rolled on, Landon Green still just continues to make those just really costly mistakes at bad times, and does so again, and just not quite enough to knock off Fife. Anderson school record 363, monster night for him, and North Sand just did not have an answer for that running game. Um, you know, just a great effort on North Sand's, but just too much Fife in this one, and that locks up that region for Fife. It will, drop North Sand to number three as they're going to have to travel in the playoffs in the first round. Gaston gets their first win of the season, knocks off West End in a wild one, 42-34. Cameron Hawkins, to my understanding, had 432 yards of rushing and 5 touchdowns. That is just ridiculous. I mean, you have some kids that can't do that in 5 games. So, congrats to them and Coach Morris for getting the win in that one. Bluff, the average star list, a lot of people thought maybe, just maybe, Tinker and Company would have an opportunity to knock them off, but just not having it. 41-15, very impressive, and it just locks up that fourth spot for Cedar Bluff. Highland Home, nice win there. A lot of people thought maybe and let down, but they were not having it. Region title game here, Ohatchee Ranburne. Big test, I felt like, for Ohatchee to just, get them ready for the playoffs, and they absolutely respond with a shutout. That's very impressive for them as they lock that up and send Ranburne to number 2. Rib Bay just taking care of business. Reeltown same way on that one. Section just rolling over Asbury, no shock there. Colbert County takes care of Sheffield. Aliceville, that defense, what can I say? Just nasty. Another shutout. Westbrook rolls over Woodland, no shock there. Spring Garden just smashes Appalachian. Hubbartville, big win there. Coach Woods, Coosa Christian. A lot of people thought maybe, just maybe, they might get upset, but they go to Woodville and take care of business in impressive fashion. Lipscomb, another 404 yards passing. Great night for him. And that pretty much locks up at third spot for the Conquerors. Looking on, Decatur Heritage takes care of Galesville. That pretty much locks up the fourth spot for them. Um, Maples will just rolling, no big shock there. Linden smashes them. South Lamar takes care of business. Region title game, Morris Hill, Waterloo, as we spoke of. Didn't think Waterloo had what it took to stop Morris Hill, and evidently they didn't as they smashed them 54-20. But that's still Waterloo number 2. Very impressive season for them. Pickens County takes care of business. As we talked about last week, really good defense, really bad offense for Valley Head, and you get a shutout. I will say this, maybe they played better defensively, though. Hubbard only scored 31, so I guess if you want to really grasp at straws, I don't know. I guess maybe a little improvement for Valley Head this week. This was a little bit of a shock. We actually picked Raglan on this one, and Winterboro and Coach Beckett and company sneak out of there with an upset, and that actually puts them to number 3, and Raglan drops to 4 in that region. So big win there for them. Lynette just smashes Verbena. No big shock there. Donahoe, very impressive win over Victory in that one. Wadley just continues to roll. Douglas, third straight week shutout. This time to Cleveland. St. Luke's, 50 points. The usual, I guess you could say, for them. Jermaine Brown, what more can you say? A little bit of a shock here. Catholic Montgomery. I know they're ranked, I believe, number 9. But they put a pretty good little beating on T.R. Miller as they have kind of faded over the last really 2 to 3 weeks. That really hurts T.R. Miller. I believe that will force them to 3rd, if not 4th, in that region. So devastating loss there for Cothedridge. Our team of the week for this week is actually going to be teams. We're going to have a co-team of the week. I'm going to give it to Gaston for getting a nice win over West End in that one. You might say, well, they're both winless, but nevertheless, they have really made a lot of improvements. You look at last year, they pretty much got blown out in a lot of games. This year, very competitive in a lot of those that they have actually lost. You might say, well, they've only won 1 game, but they've been so much more competitive this season. So Coach Morris and his young group, I believe they only had like 4 kids last year that actually had played before. So, another year under the belt, improvement. Who knows what the future might hold for them? Coach, or excuse me, our other team will be Arab for Coach Glasscock and the Knights. Finally getting a win over struggling Madison County, but a win is a win. Hopefully, they can build off of that. They had been showing a little bit of improvement here and there. They kept the game with Scottsboro very competitive. I thought that really helped them as far as confidence goes, and they managed to go in there and pull it off. So, congrats to them. But let's take a look at this week's poll. Um, Thompson actually gets first place vote this week. Not a whole lot really changing there, though. Pinson Valley still number one. Saraland actually gets a vote this week. That's kind of a surprise. Hartsville picks up a vote this week. Jackson Nolan, first time since '97 they have been ranked this high, so congrats to them. Oxford stays in the polls at number 9. Most shows moves up to number 10. Hueytown, no love at 11, even though they are the region champs. And then you got McAdory at 13 as they tumble just a little bit. And all of a sudden, Opelika, you might look at that record and you might say 4-4, and it's not that big a deal. But as we've talked about, earlier in the season with them, they lost a lot of games to a lot of really good opponents. So that's a little misleading, and maybe they are really finding their stride going into the playoffs. Um, Etowah picks up some votes this week. I believe they had 7. I believe they've been only having about 3 to 4, so gaining a little bit of ground on Viger as the season's going on. Madison Academy, they're at 4. Monroe Jordan at 7. Briarwood tumbles to 8. Jasper gets some love there at number 9. East Limestone sneaks up in there at number 10. I believe this is the first time they've been ranked all season. Russell tumbles to 13. Center Point there about 15. Looking on the 4A, not a whole lot changing. Basically the usual suspects in that one. Good Hope, just a sneaky little 11 team there though. DAR finally getting some a little bit of recognition there at 13. Hanley getting a little love at 14 as they move up. That's kind of interesting because they are actually behind Lincoln in their region, but yet they are ranked ahead of Lincoln. So go figure that one. Our new number one in 3A is the team that knocked off number one. To be the man, you got to beat the man, as Ric Flair would say. Randolph County, your new number one, 14 first place votes. And I believe only, not a whole lot of margin there. 22 votes ahead of Mobile Christian as Mobile Christian gets jumped. I'm sure they probably love that. And kind of a weird entry there at 3. Winfield moves up. They get 2 first place votes. That's a little different. And Sachs tumbles just a little bit to 4 there. Westminster actually gets first place vote this week, and they're tied for 7th. That's the highest they've ever been ranked as a program, so no congrats to them. Geraldine, they're at 11. Just kind of always right around the edge, but never in this year for Geraldine. Midfield, they're at about 14, and then T.R. Miller about 16. Five still holding strong, but Ohatchee gets first place vote this week. So, somebody liked what they saw in that shutout win for them. Reeltown there at 3, Cottage at 4, Thorsby at 5, Luverne 6. Nothing really changing in any of these. Collinsville actually sneaks in the top 10 this week, though. They're back at 10. Aston at 11. Ramburn at about 13. And North Sam falls back just a little bit to 16. Lynette still number 1. Not a whole lot changing in 1A as well. You got Morris Hill there at number 10, Waterloo at 11, and Spring Garden maybe a little underrated at about 12. But that pretty much wraps us up for the polls. So let's go to our segment of our correspondence questions, if you will. Brock Bennett says, and he wants to know about the whole Mountain Brook and Hoover and uh, Hewitt Trustful, that big four-way mess there. Well, it's like this. They actually play each other. Thompson plays Hewitt. Um, so obviously the winner's going to get that. Okay, then you got the Bucks playing Mountain Brook, and the winner's going to get that. So that's going to bring it down. Those two winners would then go with their head-to-head earlier in the season. So I'm going to say that we're going to say Talia takes care in a shootout over Tyson and Company and get the win over Hewitt. And then we're gonna say that the Bucks take care of business over the Cinderella Mountain Brook Spartans, and that's gonna bring it back all the way to I believe week 3, week 4, whenever it was they played. Uh, so the Bucks, after all this, a lot of people thought Hewitt had it in the bag, and then all of a sudden it was uh, Mountain Brook. All of a sudden, they thought, oh, they're gonna beat Hewitt, and or excuse me, when they did beat Hit, they were going to beat Thompson. They were going to run away with it. After all this commotion, if you will, the smoke clears, and it's going to be that same team at the top of the mountain, being Coach Niblett and the Bucks. And I believe they'll go in as one. You'll have uh, Thompson at 2, and then we will have, I would say, probably Mountain Brook at 3 because they hold head to head over Hewitt, and that Hewitt will tumble all the way to 4. That would be my projections. So I hope that answers your question and kind of clarifies all that for you. Nikita Magnum asks, and he wants to know about the playoff hope, or excuse me, the playoff future, I guess you could say, because both are more than likely in. Obviously, Geraldine is. They're going to be hosting. Until this past week, they were going to be hosting, or excuse, I'm looking into, excuse me, round 2. The way it looks, I would say that Geraldine will get the win in round 1. Um, because Holly Pond's a good team, but I don't think they've got quite what it takes to beat Geraldine. So I would say they're going to get by them. And then, as I was going to say, we had already projected out that Piedmont would come to Geraldine 2 out of 3 weeks, the way it was set up until last week, the big upset with Saks getting beat. So now all of a sudden, the way it looks is Saks will come to town in that round 2. So that's going to be, I guess their future for the Dogs. And then the other team you asked about was Plainview. Plainview's in a weird situation. Um, they pretty much have uh, locked a playoff spot there. It would take some craziness. I mean, it would take Sylvania actually getting an upset win over Geraldine this week, which is not very likely. It's not impossible, but it's not very likely. And if that was to be the case, and then you would have Pisgah to knock off Plainview this week, which is very possible. If both of those things were to happen, then it would pretty much put Plainview out in the cold. But more than likely, what's going to happen, if you put a gun to my head and make me tell you, would be that Sylvania's going to lose that game. They're going to drop to 3 losses. And then even if uh, Pisgah can, sneak out of there with a win, it's going to put it in a 3-way tie. Then it would go back to a tie break. And then you would have Plainview playing Crossville in that final week. And if they win that game, that would pretty much lock up number 3 for them. So they kind of control their own destiny either way. If they get the win against Pisgah, they lock up number 3. Or if they beat Crossville, they would also lock up number 3. And you might say, well, being number 3, where will they go? They're obviously going to travel, and I would say it's going to be midfield because Fultondale's already pretty much wrapped that up. Now, the only monkey wrench in that would be if Pennington was to knock off midfield this week, then it would go to Pennington. But I would think, uh, you know, my pick on that would be midfield. So I would say Plainview will have to go to midfield in round 1. A very athletic team, and I don't foresee Plainview knocking them off. So that pretty much hopefully clarifies all that for you. So after all that, let's get to this week and the games. Gadsden City going into Grissom. Can Gadsden City make it 3 in a row? I don't think so. I think Grissom gets them. It's going to be close, but it wouldn't not surprise me if they did not pull it off. But I'm going to take Grissom. Grissom's made a lot of improvements this whole season, and I'm going to stick to the fact that they have improved and continue on that success with a win over Gadsden City. I mean, actually, it's a huge going back to that game. If Kansas City wins, they actually can sneak in the playoffs there, which is kind of shocking, I know, but they are technically still alive in that region. That leads us to this Auburn and Central Phoenix City matchup. I believe this is 2 versus 3. It's also region title on the line. Both of them's undefeated. Something's got to give, is what it boils down to. This Red Devil team is really good. Parrish at quarterback. He was kind of an afterthought last year, but this year it's kind of his team, and he's done a fantastic job being more of a focal point of the offense this year, and I expect him to be just a little too much for Auburn. Although Auburn's got a great defense, I do like Central Phoenix City to win this one and claim that region title. Florence going into Sparkman. Sparkman's kind of struggling uh, over the last really 2 to 3 weeks. I really don't understand what's happened to them. And Florence, lost 2 weeks ago to Gaston City. That kind of shocked everybody as well. Um, I'm gonna have to go with Sparkman. I think they get it back on track and get a big win, and probably go a long way to making the playoffs with a win. Um, but with a lot on the line. And also, Florence still in contention, so it's do or die at this point. As we talked about earlier, here at Trustful, Paul Tyson rolling in there to take on Talia Tungalivoa. And I like the Warriors. I think it's going to be a shootout, but I think their defense is probably going to be just a little bit too much for Hewitt. Huntsville Bob Jones, I'd go Bob Jones on that one, keeping their playoff hopes alive as well. Clemens and Austin, big showdown here. This is 9 versus 6. Austin, man, they just kind of got by in the early part of the season, but really over the last 4 to 5 weeks, found a lot of offense. So I'm going to go with them. I think they're riding a momentum high, even though James Clemens actually scored 60 the last 2 weeks, but not really the competition level of Austin. So we're going to say the Bears sneak out of there with a win in that one. Mountain Brook going into Hoover. Mountain Brook kind of come back down to earth last week to Thompson, and I look for more of the same. Going into the Med, it's going to be a little too much for them, and I like the Bucks in that one. Athens should get back on track and knock off Lee in that one. Don't look now, but Calera's not very good. And Chelsea, got the win over Minor last week. Look for Coach Goodwin and company maybe to get 2 wins in a row this week. Uh, Looking there, you got Coleman going to Fort Payne. Fort Payne probably can win this game, but might have a little bit of an emotional hangover after such a wild game last week. This thing could be close, but I like Fort Payne to win it just because it's at home. And Coleman just really has really struggled to score, and just in general, really, the last 3 weeks. Daphne going to St. Paul's. This is a huge, huge game for the Saints. So they have got to win this game if they want to lock up that third spot. If they don't win it, it gets wild, and Yeah, who knows? That 4 spot may not be theirs if they lose, so they definitely need to win this ball game. And Daphne's just looking also to possibly sneak into that 4 spot. So a lot's on the line. But I do like the Saints to put it together enough to win this ball game and lock up that 3rd spot. Hartsville Hazel Green. Hartsville's going to be way too much for Hazel Green, and as that's a fantastic team, and they're going to show it against a good Hazel Green team. Huffman, Clay Shotwell in that one. McAdoo should bounce back, knock off Rookwood in that one. Oxford going into Gardendale. Um, I don't think Gardendale could sneak in that 3rd spot. I think Oxford pretty much locked it in. So this is just kind of a pride game, maybe a momentum game, if you will. But look for Oxford after having such a struggle to score last week against Clay Chalkville. Look for them to bounce back and take it out on Gardendale this week. Saraland trying to uh, get a win going into next week in their big showdown in their region title game, but they got to take care of Blunt first if they're going to get there. Same thing goes for Spanish Fort. They got to take care of Gus Shores. A huge matchup. This actually, it's a within class game, but it's actually not a region game. Wetumpka going into Muscle Shoals, just two really good teams, just fighting it out. Bragging rights on the line, if you will. I believe this is a 6 versus 10. Wetumpka being 6, Shoals being 10. Um, I would probably have to lean just a little bit toward Wetumpka and JD Martin in this one, but it would not surprise me at all to see most Shoals win this ball game. Look for Alexandria to bounce back, and who knows, Douglas might actually score this week. It would be 4 weeks in a row if they do not score. So hopefully they can, I don't know, kick a field goal, get a safety, something, and put some points on the board this week. Arab going into Madison Academy. Yeah, Arab better have enjoyed that win last week because the Mustangs will be way too much for them and it will get ugly fast. And look for Madison to put up a lot of points in this one. We talked about this all season. Can the Pirates knock off Etowah? And you might say, well, the Pirates' hopes are dashed. Not necessarily. If they can somehow, some way, knock off Etowah, it would cause a three-way tie for first with them, Southside, and Etowah, of course. And I haven't really went that far as projecting it out, but who knows? But I can't see it happening. Etowah defensively has had their issues over the last 2 3 weeks, especially last week, giving up 45 to Southside. Collins and company, I mean, something's got to give. He's a great running back. He gets a lot of yardage, but that Etowah defense is very, very stingy. I like the Blue Devils in this one. Obviously, it's also at home. Um, so I like Etowah to take it, clinch the 1st spot, put Southside at 2, and, the Cinderella, if you will, Pirates are going to claim their 3 in a loss. This is game for number 2 in their region. Central Clay going into Center Point. Center Point's on a roll. But I think Central Clay's got just enough to sneak out of there with a win and claim that number 2 spot. Crossville going in the Southside. Southside is really found something as we spoke of earlier, and Crossville's still just really struggling. So look for another blowout. Southside get the win in that one. Boaz still does have a chance because if by some chance they do knock off Etowah, and by some chance Crossville does knock off Southside, then all of a sudden you got Pirates as your number 1. I mean, it's crazy to think about, but it is actually possible. So we shall see. Um, this Gunnersville East Limestone game is really, Scottsburg's going to watch it hard because obviously if Gunnersville wins, they lock up that fourth spot. That's not very likely. This East Limestone team is really good. C.J. Yarborough, coming over from Tanner last year, he has had a fantastic year, and I cannot see Gunnersville winning this ball game. I would take East Limestone, so that's going to set it up for Scottsboro, but we shall see if they can actually take advantage. Madison County and Ardmore, something's got to give. I'd probably go with Ardmore's been playing pretty well over the last few weeks. We'll go with Ardmore in that one. As we talked about right there, Scottsboro, their only hope. They need Gunnersville to lose, and they have to upset Brewer. They cannot afford to go into a tie break because Gunnersville actually snuck up and beat them, I believe, week 3, week 4, somewhere in there. And that loss is going to loom heavy for Coach Jacobs and his Wildcats. Um, they put up a nice showing against Madison Academy. It would not surprise me at all if they didn't go in there and upset Brewer. But I don't know. I just I got a feeling Brewer's going to take care of it. It's going to be close, but I think Brewer wins. They will lock up their number 2 spot, or excuse me, number 3, and they will put Gunnersville at 4, and Coach Jacobs and Scottsboro will be out in the cold at number 5. At Sylacauga, Mumford's still alive in the playoff hopes there. If they could somehow pull off an upset against a struggling Sylacauga, they would sneak in that 4th spot. As to where, Sylacauga, if they win, they pretty much lock up that 4th spot. So we shall see how that all unfolds. I would probably say Sylacauga is going to put it together just enough to get the win and secure their playoff spot. Look for Anniston to take care of Asheville in that one. That Catholic Montgomery and Headland game, that's big. That's 9 versus 8. Um, you know, region title on the line for the most part. Um, I would probably lean just a little bit toward Catholic to win this ball game, though. DAR and St. John. DAR just needs to take care of business, and that will continue to lock up that number 2 spot for them behind North Jackson. Looking on Hanley and Talladega all season long. At points, we thought, well, Hanley may be out of the playoffs. Then it was, well, Hanley might be in the 4th spot. Well, all of a sudden, looks like Hanley might be in the 3rd spot. Well, the way the thing plays out, if it does come down to a tie break and they do knock off Talladega, which is kind of an even game, if they can find a way to win, they hold the tie break over Elmore County, and all of a sudden, Coach Training Company are number 2. And I mean, that's just kind of happened over the last 3 to 4 weeks, the way it's unfolded. So, huge, huge opportunity for Hanley to get that number 2 spot behind Lincoln. Oh, and the granddaddy of them all, if you will, game of the week. We've talked about it. I don't know how long I've talked about it. Probably 6, 7 weeks. I told you it was coming. A lot of people thought, they'll get beat. Somebody will beat them. This will beat them. That'll beat them. I don't know who's going to beat them, but somebody's going to beat them. But it hasn't happened. It sets up a huge matchup, 2 versus 3, region title on the line. Both have aspirations to get to Auburn. I mean, big big hopes and dreams for both teams. Something's got to give. As we talked about, this Jacksonville team, I don't know. I don't know what it is about them. They just find a way to win. And Hopes Bluff, um, you can make an argument, haven't really been tested. So it's going to be interesting to see once they go up against obviously the best team they've seen all season. Can they deliver? Darian Meads is going to have a monster ball game if they're going to win. And I got a feeling Jacksonville's going to find a way to knock them off in a semi upset. S3 will knock off 2, and they will take the number 1 spot and drop Hopes Bluff to number 2 in that region. North Jackson uh, goes into Randolph. This thing's gonna get ugly. Randolph has really struggled defensively, and you don't have to be a dummy to know that North Jackson can really score some points. I can't even remember the last time they scored under 60 this season. So look for another 60-point game, another blowout. North Jackson rolls in that one. Oniana takes care of business against White Plains, I do believe. Um, Geraldine, Sylvania, we talked a little bit about it earlier. Sylvania's got a little confidence about it. It will. I mean, it's not impossible. A few weeks ago, I'd say this game would be a blowout. I think it's gonna be a little closer than you think, but I like Geraldine to pull away late and win it in that. And Glencoe's in a really bad position. Sachs coming off that loss last week. Look for them just to buzzsaw Glencoe this week. Midfield Pennington, as we spoke of earlier, number 2 on the line. Midfield, or excuse me, Pennington's been playing some pretty good ball, but I got a feeling this midfield team playing some really good defense this season. Look for them to slow them down and get out of there with an ugly win like they have all season, and lock up at number 2 spot and put Pennington to 3. New Hope, Brindley, something's got to give. Somebody's gonna want a football game. New Hope almost done it. I don't know, 2 or 3 times this year, really. And Brindley, not even close anytime. So Indians will win this week, and I predict it will probably be by a pretty good margin in this one. Pike Road, Beulah. Pike Road, great season. Beulah, another good season. I like Pike Road to get the win in this one and probably lock up that number 2 spot in their region. Uh, a lot to be said about this game. Looking at the schedule, it was more personal matter because Luke Pruitt, he wanted the Plainview job. Uh, it wasn't open at the time when he took the Pisgah job, so all of a sudden it came open, and there were rumors that they wanted him, and obviously he told them no because he already had the Pisgah job. So it was kind of a weird deal for him, but now he would love to go back in there and get a win and lock up a spot for his Pisgah Eagles. And obviously, if Plainview wins, as we spoke of earlier, they pretty much lock up that 3rd spot, and all the drama is kind of ceased if Plainview wins. Because if they win theirs, they'll lock up 3, and then after the win last week for Sylvania over Pisgah, that will lock up that 4th spot for Sylvania. So I don't know. This game really, it's one of them you could basically toss a coin. Both teams just not very good. Let's just be honest. Both really struggle to score at times. Uh, but I don't know. I've got a feeling that Plainview's going to really play some good defense like they did last week. They only gave up a touchdown last week. And really played some good defense last time they played at home in a game like this against Susan Moore. So look for that defense to really show up, bog down Pisgah and sneak out of here with an ugly win. I don't know, 14-13, somewhere in that ballpark. Randolph County, Pleasant Valley. Pleasant Valley could spoil it for Randolph County, but I don't see it happening. Randolph County's just too strong, especially with now that number 1 ranking. They will take care of business. Wellborn going to Piedmont. Piedmont should take care of business in that one. Um, Cedar Bluff going to Collinsville, big rivalry game. This game will get ugly though. Cedar Bluff it's going to be a long night for them. Look for Caleb Jones Company to jump on them early and often and blow them out and lock up obviously that number 2 spot and as we talked about earlier, pretty much Bluff has locked up that fourth spot in that region. But more importantly, we'll have the bragging rights of smoking one of their rivals. Cottage Hill can, lock up the region title if they knock off, or excuse me, just take their business against Southern Choctaw. But Southern Choctaw ain't nothing to scoff at. It's gonna be a tough contest, but look for Samario Rudolph to get the win in this one. It could be tighter than you think, though. The way that region looks with Addison there, they need to definitely get the win. That's first and foremost. But more than likely, that's going to wind up in a three-way tie. We talked about that last week. Um, I stand by what I said as far as Addison is looking like. When it does go to the tie, they will be your region number one, and Red Bay to two, and Colbert County to three. But they still all got to take their business this week if that's going to happen. Outer going into five. That game's going to get ugly. Five should roll in that one. Um, North Sand going into section. That game should get ugly. I think North Sand's going to take out a lot of frustrations and bounce back pretty heavy on one of their rivals, being section. Um, Ohatchee, Gaston. Sorry, Gaston. Ain't going to be no winning streak. Ohatchee will just outman you. This thing will get ugly. They'll score at least 40, I would say, on Gaston, and probably shut them out, if not hold them to about a touchdown. This Ramburn Realtown game is very interesting. Just looking at the playoff picture, because both these teams have I guess great hopes as far as going deep, and it's kind of for nothing. But these two teams, they know each other pretty well because last 2 to 3 years, I believe they were in the same region together. So you know I guess wanted to play again is what it boiled down to. So they play a non-region game this week. Um, I think this game means more to Ramburn because if Ramburn wins this game, they can bounce back after losing a disappointing game to Ohatchee last week. But Reeltown is that they got a little chip on their shoulder. They took it on the chin a little bit to Maples. We'll look for them to want to kind of send a statement going in the playoffs and get a win over Ramburn. I would probably have to lean with Reeltown, but I think it'll be close. Sandrock, Asbury, Sandrock struggled all season long. Lost some kids early, I believe week three, somewhere in there. It's just really been a struggle since then. It was a struggle before, but it really has been a struggle since they've lost those kids. Look for them to finally get another win. But maybe this thing it's not as ugly as it has been in the past. Because, as I say, Sandrock's really struggled. So I don't think they can score a lot of points to actually blow out Asbury in this one. Tanner going to Sheffield. Sheffield's not playing that great. This could, I don't know. It may not be as bad as what most people think. Tanner just took it on the chin pretty much from everybody. But look for this to be a little closer than anything. Tanner might be able to hang around with them for just a little while. Terrence Southeastern, that should be a good little game. Um, Southeastern is a scrappy little group, and they very well could knock off Tarrant. But Tarrant, the way it looks, is pretty much wrapped up in the number two spot behind Aliceville, and Southeastern still got hope. They might sneak in that fourth spot, but we shall see. Starktown, Red Bay. Red Bay just got to take their business and hope to get in that tie. Thorsby, Central Coosa. Central Coosa is not that bad a team. Thorsby needs to be careful. coming off a bye week. Maybe, not be as sharp. Could be interesting, but I think they'll pull it out. Um, West End going into Woodland. West End still hadn't won a football game, and Woodland, I believe, is only won two. So there's a great opportunity for the Patriots to finally get a win. Um, I don't know. I got a feeling they're going to find a way to win it. It's going to be a shootout, but I think West End might sneak out of there with the first win of the season and knock off the Bobcats. Westbrook, Cleveland. This is number 3 on the line. Um, it's going to be a close game, but I don't know. I kind of wavered on this one back and forth. I would probably lean just a little bit toward Cleveland to take the third spot and Westbrook to go to 4. Basically, a lot's on the line because the loser has got to go 2-5 in that first round, and you just don't want to have to do that. So, you're playing for some serious consequences. Cherokee and Phillips. This is, I believe, the third spot on the line, and look for Phillips to win this ball game and lock up that third spot. Donahoe going to Appalachian. Donahoe's going to win that one. Faultville, Gillsville, going to be a lot of points. The Blue Devils took last week off. Look for them to get back on track. And I don't know if they'll score 70. They scored 70 the last 2 times out. I don't know if they'll get that many, but they will probably come close to it against a struggling Gillsville team. Hubbertville and Pickens. Pickens, obviously, I believe, will lock up the number 2 spot if they win it, and if they hadn't already. Hubbertville could really throw a monkey wrench into things if they could win that ball game. But I like Pickens to win it and keep us out of that. And it's also going to set up a 3-way tie between them, Lynn, and Marion County for that third spot. So somebody's going to be left out in the cold. But we'll go more into that next week after Hubbertville loses. Spring Garden going into Raglan. Spring Garden just needs to take care of business. Raglan's, you know, pretty good little team, but I think Garden a little too much for them. Valley Head going into Coosa. Valley Head just really struggling to score. I believe they only scored about 12 points in the last 3 weeks. And Coosa, no problem in scoring. They've scored 47 this past week. Scored 34 the week before that. Look for Woods and Company to get cranking early and often, and just really put this Valley Head team out of their misery as they just continue to struggle week in week out. Woodville going into Decatur. I said earlier Decatur's pretty much wrapped up that 4th spot, but this is actually the game for the 4th spot. Uh, Lands and Company have kind of cooled off over the last really 2 to 3 weeks, offensively anyway, but they have kept it close. They had an opportunity to actually knock off Hubbard. They weren't able to do so, and then kind of got shellacked at home in a pivotal game with Coosa last week. So I would expect this thing to be high scoring, but I've got a feeling that Decatur will find some way, somehow, to get the win at home and lock up that 4th spot for them. That pretty much, well, that's an interesting game there with Aliceville and Selma. Selma being able to score a lot of points against a really good defense in Aliceville. So it'll be a great test for Aliceville in that defense. We'll find out if they really are for real. I obviously like Selma to win the game, but I'm just very curious to see if Allison can slow them down as much as they have other people. But looking down our list here, and That Sardis Abertville will be an interesting game. Sardis is kind of been up and down, kind of been outmanned at times, and Abertville just really hasn't got much going all season. And but they're likely going to take the fourth spot, but Dale obviously would love to get the win and love to build some momentum going into the playoffs, as they will likely have to travel to Pinson Valley. Good luck with that one. So I'm going to say that the Aggies they'll put it together enough, Dindy and company, and they will get the win in this one, and it could be a blowout. And that's pretty much that Viger and Opelika is interesting because Opelika coming off the upset win over Stanhope Elmore, but Viger is really good, and but this will be a tough test for him. But I do like Viger to go ahead and take care of business, and it might be closer than you think, but I do like Viger to win it. But that pretty much wraps us up for the week. As always, I'm Artie Decker. This is PSN. This is going to be week 9. Believe it or not, we've only got 2 more weeks of the regular season. It just doesn't seem possible, but we're here. That's all we can say. As always, save a spot on the fence. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week. God bless.